Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I was the most well-behaved canary by the side of the rich young master, Justin. Until one day he encountered a tricky situation in his business dealings and casually gave me away to someone. As I was being pulled into the car, I broke free from the people around me and ran back, crying and begging him. But he just coldly pried open my hand. "Do you know why I've never touched you, Gina?" I finally understood that what I thought was care and respect was only for the sake of getting a better price at a crucial moment. Later, the person I followed was ambushed and critically injured. Justin personally came to pick me back. "Gina, I'm here to take you back home." I smiled, raised my hand to show him the wedding ring on my ring finger, and then leaned down to lightly kiss my beloved. "Mr. Justin, I'm already married." On my 22nd birthday that night, Justin set off fireworks all night long in Las Vegas for me. It was our second year together and the second birthday he celebrated with me. In the lounge, several socialites who were usually on good terms were drinking tea and chatting. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Nancy, dressed in a high-end designer dress and carrying an Hermes handbag, walked in and sat directly across from me. She had almost been engaged to Justin before, so she harbored deep animosity towards me. Over the past 2 years, whenever there was an opportunity, Nancy would take the chance to make things difficult for me or humiliate me. Today, as Justin extravagantly celebrated my birthday, Nancy naturally harbored deep resentment. "Nancy, Mr. Justin is about to come over." Some people were worried that she would embarrass me and tried to smooth things over. But Nancy just smiled slyly, looking me up and down, and said, "That dress looks nice on you today. It suits you." I was somewhat taken aback, as were the others. Nancy's eyes held a deeper smile, but her voice became more friendly. "I overheard someone asking Justin earlier, and he personally said that good things are coming your way." Nancy smiled, taking out a small box from her handbag and handing it to me. "Gina, this is a birthday gift I specially prepared for you." I was puzzled but still politely accepted and thanked her. As she left, she said with a meaningful smile, "Happy birthday, Gina." Clutching the box, still trying to process my shock, Justin came over to me. He took off his coat and personally draped it over my shoulders, then grabbed my handbag, causing the other socialites behind us to giggle and cover their mouths. I felt joyful in my heart, linking my arm with his and asking, "Justin, where are we going?" Justin looked down at me and brushed my hair away from my temple, saying, "You'll find out soon." After stepping off Justin's private yacht, I noticed many luxury cars parked on the pier. The most eye-catching was a Rolls-Royce with a license plate from the 3 regions. I could vaguely see a tall man leaning against the front of the car, smoking. As the night wind blew, I felt a bit cold and instinctively clutched my coat tighter. There are so many people, but it's silent. I suddenly felt a sense of inexplicable fear. Justin lowered his gaze, stroked my hair, and asked, "Gina, are you happy tonight?" "Happy," I replied. Justin smiled, and his finger lightly brushed my face. "Have I been treating you well these past 2 years?" I nodded. He had truly treated me well, with care, dedication, and great respect. "Would you be willing to do something for me?" Without hesitation, I nodded. "Of course." The smile in Justin's eyes faded, and he gently grasped my shoulder, asking me to turn around. I was puzzled but compliant, allowing him to guide my movements. "Gina, do you see that man over there?" I turned to look at the man again. In the dim light, I could vaguely see his handsome profile. I turned back to Justin, asking, "Do you know him? Is he your friend?" Justin released my hand, and his gaze turned cold as he said, "From now on, you will follow him." I was stunned for 3 seconds. "Justin." He didn't look at me again and instead took a step back. His bodyguards came over and grabbed my arm, saying, "Gina, let's go." I couldn't think straight. My mind was blank, and I could only struggle instinctively. Seemingly impatient, Justin furrowed his brows and turned away. The 2 bodyguards had a colder attitude. "Gina, don't bring this upon yourself." But I couldn't listen, kicking, hitting, and biting like a madwoman. They seemed hesitant to use force. Taking advantage of their hesitation, I broke free, crying as I ran back to beg Justin. He looked down at my hand, which I was gripping tightly, almost to the point of my fingertips turning white. But he coldly pried open each of my fingers, saying, "Do you know why I've never touched you, Gina?" His voice was indifferent, but it felt like a thunderous explosion in my ears. My fingers were nearly broken, the pain piercing through me, but I seemed numb to it. Tears streamed down my face, silently wiping them away. I stared into his eyes. Justin, you've made your decision? Yes. No turning back? Yes. No regrets. Of course not. He smirked arrogantly. I never regret anything I do in my life. I smiled back. Good, Justin. You once saved me. This time consider us even. Justin furrowed his brows, waving for the bodyguards to come over again. No need. I'll go on my own. I glanced back at him one last time, took off the coat he had given me and walked away. Justin frowned more deeply. It's late and cold. A thin black strap dress couldn't fend off the chill, but the cold in my heart was even more chilling. Just now, the person who was rubbing against me from behind, was it not you? I choked with anger. This pajama was forced on me by the owner, and they didn't even provide me with underwear. What could I do under the same roof? Blow-drying his hair was what he made me do. With his tall stature, I strained on my tiptoes to barely blow-dry it, and as I was about to burst into tears out of frustration, Eric seemed to be even more intrigued. Gina, you brought this upon yourself by summoning me, he said. When the pajamas were torn off, I turned my face. I bit my lips tightly and closed my eyes. Justin had never touched me before, and in the past it was touching and caring to me. But now it felt more like an unspeakable shame. However, I did not expect it to hurt so much. The involuntary physical reaction and the surge of tears pierced through that ridiculous facade of composure. Eric was taken aback. He stopped his actions and looked at me, trembling with tears for a while before cursing. Gina, this is your first time. Eric bent down to try and wipe my tears. However, my tears were flowing uncontrollably, like a dam had burst open. He became increasingly impatient with wiping them and finally stood up to leave, saying, "All right, fine, I won't do it." I cried and sobbed with red and swollen eyes, looking at him. No, Eric, it hurt already. I don't want to hurt for a second time. I thought of that horrifying pain that made my scalp numb, and it sent shivers down my spine. Don't make me go through pain for no reason. I cried pitifully and helplessly, but Eric seemed amused by my words. He reached out and pulled me back into his arms, saying, Gina, saying such things to a man at a time like this, you really have no idea how you're putting yourself in a dangerous position. Despite his harsh words, I could clearly feel a gentle change in his approach during the following proceedings. Until everything came to an end, I lay on the pillow, not wanting to move, as Eric put on a pair of pajama pants to get some water. He fed me a glass and asked if I wanted to take a shower. I was too tired to move. Eric put down the glass, turned around and picked me up, saying, "Hold on tight. If you fall, I won't be responsible." I hurriedly clung to his neck. The next morning when I woke up, there was no sign of Eric in bed. I got up, sat on the bed in a daze for a while before realizing that I was no longer at Justin's house but in Eric's mansion. Justin had given me to Eric just like giving away an item. I chuckled self-deprecatingly, got up, washed up, went downstairs and saw a lot of people coming in and out of the living room, making it very busy. Gina, you're awake. Should we prepare breakfast now? Do you prefer Western or Chinese? Mr. Eric has had all the things he bought for you delivered, and you can see if you like them for dinner later. Bought things for me? I looked at the almost overflowing living room filled with paper boxes and crates and was surprised. Yes, Mr. Eric said that you will be living here from now on, and a lot of things needed to be arranged. Will he be living here too? Of course. Whenever Mr. Eric returns from Las Vegas, he will stay here. I stood still in amazement for a while before saying, "Then please prepare a Western-style breakfast for me." Thank you. After having breakfast, the staff was still waiting for me to check the additional items that were procured for me. It was a collection of everything needed for daily life. Eric isn't a thoughtful and gentle gentleman. For clothing preparations, perhaps he was too lazy to spend time selecting them. He swept all the top-tier and off-season clothing brands, filling up the huge walk-in closet upstairs. Skincare and makeup products were also all top luxury brands. Not to mention the handbags. There were piles of Hermès bags. But what surprised me the most was the jewelry. There were countless dazzling diamonds in the jewelry box, and there were even 2 red diamonds. It's worth noting that red diamonds are extremely rare, with only about 2 or 3 dozen being mined worldwide. The largest one is no more than 6 carats. Gina, do you need anything else to be procured? It's enough, thank you. Please convey my thanks to Mr. Eric. In fact, Justin had always been very good to me, and my daily life was already luxurious, but it was never to this extent. I could only attribute it to the conquering desire and competitiveness of men. Perhaps Eric wanted to outshine Justin. Otherwise, there was no explanation for why he would be so generous to a woman he had just met. Several workers moved back and forth several times. They had just finished arranging all these items. In the afternoon, Eric called and said there was a charity banquet in the evening, and I should attend with him. The styling team would be here soon to make me look beautiful. I sat in front of the mirror, feeling like a Barbie doll to be played with. No matter how much the stylists and makeup artists praised me, my mood didn't improve much. Even though the dress I was wearing was the utmost top-tier designer worth millions, and even the string of emeralds around my neck was worth over 100 million, I still felt somewhat lost. Yesterday, I was still Justin's girlfriend. Today, I had become Eric's woman. Even if I was dressed up beautifully in the eyes of others, I was just a laughingstock. I could even imagine how those noble ladies and wealthy daughters who used to be friendly to me before would now avoid me and look at me disdainfully. But I had to move forward regardless. At 6 o'clock, Eric came to pick me up. It was still the Rolls-Royce with the number plate 3, that was ostentatious to the extreme. I got into the car and Eric hugged me to his chest, pinching my cheek. "Why do you look unhappy?" "I'm not," I replied. "Gina, I'm not blind. Can I not go?" "Eric, you seem interested in not wanting to see Justin." I lowered my eyes. "I just don't want to attend. These events are always boring, and the food is never satisfying." Eric laughed at my words. "I'm here. Do whatever you want, eat as much as you want. But the dress is too tight." I was wearing a figure-hugging fishtail skirt, where even drinking water would highlight my small belly. Eric's long fingers fell on my flat stomach. "Gina, aren't you tired of living like this?" I was somewhat bewildered. Justin had treated me extremely well, almost to the point of spoiling me. But in these 2 years I had not dared to slack off even a bit. Every part of me was meticulously maintained. "You don't have to think about these things when you're with me, just be happy." Eric glanced at me. Of course, eating well is more important. At the banquet hall, people came over to greet and mingle with us. Quickly, Eric asked the assistant to take me to the rest area to have food. Although he said I could do whatever I wanted and just be happy, I still couldn't eat much and set the fork down after a few bites. I knew many people there, but as I suspected, no one came over to greet me, and I was content with that. While playing on my phone, Nancy walked over. "Gina," Nancy said, looking down at me with a proud smile in her eyes. I remembered her unusual closeness that day, but it was only because she knew beforehand that I would be given away by Justin. She was scheming to prop me up and then laugh at my misfortune. "Is there something you need?" I asked. Nancy sat down in front of me, appraising me with a few glances before saying, "Gina seems to be doing well." I didn't know how to respond and just smiled faintly. Nancy continued, "I heard that this Eric is very difficult to get along with. Gina, are you being mistreated?" "No, I'm not. What do you want to say?" I replied, "I just want to remind Gina that you don't really think Justin will take you back, do you?" I looked calmly at her. "Nancy, I won't be going back." Nancy was somewhat surprised. "What? Have you firmly decided to be with Eric?" "Gina, let me kindly advise you. Eric is a man who walks on the edge of a knife. Going with him won't end well." "Nancy, this is my own business." I stood up. "If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way." Nancy also stood up, with a hint of unwillingness in her voice. "Actually, Justin really misses you." I smiled lightly and released a sigh. "Is that so? Thank you for Justin's concern. Have you really given up on Justin?" I didn't look back. He was the one who gave up on me first. On my way to find Eric, I ran into a socialite with whom I didn't have a very good relationship before. "Gina, you are quite capable, climbing higher every time," garnering the favor of Eric. "I am also greatly honored. Don't be too proud." She raised her eyebrows and sneered at me. "I look forward to seeing who your next sugar daddy will be." I maintained a calm expression, but there was turmoil brewing inside me. The helplessness and resentment of a fate beyond my control almost turned into a massive, terrifying beast's mouth that swallowed me whole. If Eric got tired of me, how would he treat me? As Nancy had said, he's someone who walks on the sharp edge. His hands weren't clean, tainted with blood. He had half of the Southeast Asian underworld under his thumb. A man like him with countless enemies, ruthless and cold-hearted. Perhaps my fate would be even more miserable. In that moment I couldn't help but wonder, would Justin, if he had even an iota of affection for me, give me away to Eric? Clearly he wouldn't. Perhaps in his eyes my life and death were as light as a feather. As the banquet progressed, I found it increasingly difficult to muster any enthusiasm. Standing by Eric's side, those people seemed respectful to me on the surface, but as soon as they turned away, the disdain and scorn in their eyes were unmistakable. "Are you hungry?" Eric sat on the sofa, pulling me into his arms. In the dim light, I shook my head, gazing quietly at his face. Young, handsome, fierce, extravagant, and arrogant to the extreme. Despite being tender towards me now, he could easily turn hostile. Eric, I decided to touch his sore spot once, relying on the fact that he still had an interest in me. Even if I offended him, at least I wouldn't die on the spot. Maybe, just maybe, I could still find a way out. A man like him is as good as his word. "What do you want to say?" "Someone just mentioned waiting to see who my next sugar daddy will be." Just as I was about to answer, the hand that had been caressing my waist suddenly tightened. I winced in pain but continued to ask, "Eric, would you give me away? Like how Justin gave me to you, would you give me to someone else?" Eric looked at me, smiled slowly. His smile was audacious, rebellious, yet tinged with a touch of disdain. "Gina, a woman has never been a man's possession. Men who trade women for benefits are nothing but trash in my eyes." "Are you comparing me to Justin? Are you insulting me?" "I didn't mean that. I'm just afraid that you might grow tired of me one day." I looked at him, tears welling up in my eyes. I knew that I looked the most beautiful and pitiful like this, eliciting care from others. I also knew that playing such manipulative games was truly despicable. But I had no other choice. I just wanted to find a way out for myself. "Scared that I'll grow tired of you?" Eric looked at me teasingly, his rough hand patting my buttocks lightly. "Then just behave in bed and keep me pleased. Isn't that enough?" Eric, I was both angry and embarrassed, giving him a resentful glare. Eric seemed to be in a good mood and indulged me. "Don't worry, I won't give you away. You are mine, Gina. Even in death, you'll be a ghost of our family." I was sure he was only joking. After all, men's words were deceptive. Moreover, there was Justin as a cautionary tale. But Eric didn't seem to be trying to deceive. A month later, I received a diamond ring that was almost big enough to crush my fingers. Eric had climbed up from the bottom and had always believed that the most expensive was the best. But I really couldn't wear such a ring out. He reluctantly compromised and chose a pair of the most plain couple rings from a luxury brand. "Gina, if you dare to take off this ring, I'll kill you." I glared at him but obediently wore the ring. I carefully kept the large diamond ring that looked like a sugar cube in a safe place. Eric seemed to be in a good mood. "Next month I'll take you out." "Where?" "To see my parents." "Should I prepare gifts for them?" "You don't have to. They passed away 10 years ago." Eric pulled me into his arms. "Gina, after meeting my parents, you will be the daughter-in-law of our family." I was extremely surprised, never expecting Eric to say such words. Not because he was afraid I would be given away. He pinched my cheek. "A daughter-in-law will never be given away. Way now, you can rest assured." After being with Eric, I had never thought about meeting Justin again. After all, when we were together, he mostly stayed in New York. Unfortunately, that day Eric didn't accompany me. Justin came straight to me after exchanging pleasantries with others. He held a small plate with delicate pastries. "Have some cake." He handed the plate to me. "You always say you never eat enough at banquets." I didn't take it, I just smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Justin, but I'm already full today." Justin looked a bit surprised. My gown was a spaghetti strap style but not form-fitting, so it didn't flaunt my figure. Among all the elegantly dressed attendees, my dress was not the most eye-catching or expensive, but it was the most comfortable and relaxing choice I made myself. "Eric gave you such cheap clothes to wear?" I picked it out myself. Justin raised an eyebrow, clearly not believing me. If he truly cares for you, such a dress could never have reached you. I didn't bother to explain. Eric's taste always leaned towards the expensive. My wardrobe was full of haute couture, including many antique couture dresses that I now kept to myself. But I genuinely didn't enjoy wearing them nowadays. As Eric said, happiness mattered the most. This dress was something I bought while shopping, not a big-name brand. But Eric also said that even if I wore a $100 dress, no one would dare to look down on me. After all, my man's status was obvious. Think what you want. I stood up about to leave. Justin reached out and grabbed my wrist. Gina, just endure a little longer. It will be over soon. I frowned and shook off his hand. Mr. Justin, have some self-respect. Justin was clearly displeased, but he maintained his composure. Gina, as I promised, I will come back for you. I couldn't help but retort. Justin, are you out of your mind? If you are sick, go see a doctor. Things that are given away don't have a reason to be taken back, especially people. Or do you think I am always a disposable object in your eyes? If you think Eric has any sincerity towards you, he just wants to use me against you. How he treats me, I understand better than anyone in the world. Gina, you are truly naive. Justin smiled arrogantly. In any case, what's mine will always come back to me, including you. Eric soon found out about my meeting with Justin. That night, he returned early, smelling of alcohol, clearly in a terrible mood. I was at the dressing table taking care of my skin when he barged in rudely, throwing me onto the bed. Eric! I barely had time to speak before Eric fiercely kissed me. With one hand, he tore apart the intricate lace nightgown, his movements forceful and heavy, devoid of his usual gentleness. I had an inkling of what might be happening, so I didn't resist, obediently allowing him to kiss me. Gina! Eric gripped my wrist, pressing it against the headboard. His eyes held a ruthless and terrifying glint as he stared at me intently. Don't forget who you belong to now. I hadn't forgotten. I spoke softly, trying to appease him. Today was just an accident. I didn't expect to meet him. He said he would come to take you away. I won't go, Eric. I won't go with him. My voice was calm, unnervingly calm, yet it carried a comforting tone. Eric's emotions seemed to calm down slightly. He released my wrist, his rough fingertips lightly caressing my temples and the corners of my eyes. Is there anyone else in your heart? I didn't answer immediately. After a few seconds, I shook my head. No. Truly, there is no one else. Even if I am humble, even if I'm insignificant, I still have some self-respect. I won't degrade myself to that level. Is there someone for me? I was surprised he would ask me such a question. For a moment I even thought, was he jealous? Don't daydream, Eric. Eric suddenly tightened his grip on my waist. I looked at the man in front of me, his eyes filled with a hint of anger, but it seemed more like he was upset with himself, upset for asking such a childish question. I couldn't help but smile, then tilted my face up to lightly kiss him. Can you guess? He furiously slapped my buttocks but then continued to kiss me until he stopped at the small scar on my abdomen, kissing it softly. Does it hurt? Not anymore. It was just a minor surgery. Besides, it's been over a year. Yet Eric continued to caress it carefully. Why did it leave a scar? I think I'm prone to scarring. It was strange. The wound took a long time to heal and got infected a few times. It took more than a month of back and forth before it completely healed, leaving a scar. I won't let you have another scar on your body again, suddenly Eric said, touching a soft spot in my heart. I was moved. Eric stroked my hair, leaning down to kiss my neck. Gina, you belong to me for life. I didn't expect Justin's words to come true so quickly. The matter of Eric taking me to visit his parents' graves was only known by a few of his brothers and me, but somehow word got out. Soon after we bowed at the graves, we heard the deafening sound of helicopter blades. Eric's parents came from a scholarly family. They were calm and low-key. They must have never wanted to see their son on a path so different from theirs. That's why Eric always came back quietly, without any fanfare. However, this time he was at a distinct disadvantage. I hid behind his coat near the gravestone. From initial shock to final acceptance, I was calm to the point of numbness. All of Eric's subordinates were dead. He was forced in front of his parents' graves with no way out. His black clothes were soaked in blood, and he leaned against the gravestone, unable to get up. I got up from the ground, took off the coat, and covered him with it. His face was covered in blood, and with some difficulty, he opened his eyes. "Gina!" I reached out to wipe the blood off his face, but he used all his strength to grab my hand. Scared, I shook my head. Eric closed his eyes, and after a moment, he seemed to gain some strength. He pushed me away slightly and took off his ring. I didn't understand, but Eric focused on my ring finger. "Gina, take off the ring." His voice was hoarse. He coughed violently, spitting out blood. "Eric," I leaned over to help him wipe the blood, but he pushed me away again. Just then I heard Justin's voice. The cemetery was eerily quiet. I could even hear the sound of the wind rustling through the treetops. Eric was coughing up blood nonstop, on the verge of losing consciousness. I stiffly turned around and saw Justin descending from the helicopter, taking off his sunglasses and handing them to someone beside him. He carried himself with an air of arrogance, looking down at me with a determined smile in his eyes. "Gina, I've come to take you home." He walked over to me and extended his hand. His hand was clean, without a trace of blood. He looked so pleased with himself, unlike Eric at that moment, disheveled and covered in blood stains. But I didn't reach out my hand, I even took a step back. Justin's brows furrowed slightly. "Gina, come here," he said in a gentle voice, showing no impatience. But I shook my head. I leaned against Eric, softly pressing my face against his blood-stained arm. Justin's expression turned dark in an instant. "Gina, Eric won't make it through today." I smiled and raised my hand to show him the wedding ring on my ring finger, then gently kissed my beloved. "Justin, you see, I'm already married." Justin stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. "Don't be foolish. Eric is about to die. Is it worth it to die with him? How long have you been with him? Gina, you are willing to go to such lengths for him after only a few months. We are husband and wife. If I am alive, I am his daughter-in-law. If I die, I am still his ghost." Tears welled up in my eyes as I smiled. "Justin, you don't understand. Because he grew up without a family as an orphan, you wouldn't understand how people like us long for stability. Because we've been deceived and used before. So when someone keeps every promise to you, you can be so moved. Eric and I have only been together for a few months, but he gave me a home. Gave me a stable and respectable identity. I no longer have to wake up from nightmares. I no longer have to worry about being treated as goods to be sold. For someone like me, nothing is more touching than stability. Gina, I thought you were just being deceived by him." Justin quickly regained his composure. "It's okay. I have the time and patience to change your foolish thoughts." He gestured for his bodyguards to take me away. I held onto Eric's arm tightly, refusing to let go. But it seemed like history was repeating itself. The night Justin sent me away to someone, I clung to his sleeve, begging him. He peeled off my fingers one by one. His indifference was chilling. Now I didn't want to return to him. I wanted to die with my husband. Yet again, he pried my fingers open one by one, forcibly bringing me back to him. It has always been like this, always. In his eyes, I'm not even a person. But try as I might, I couldn't break free. Even in the end, crying and struggling until my voice was hoarse, I passed out and was still forcibly taken onto the helicopter by Justin. I woke up. Justin calmly said a few words to me. "Gina, why do you persist like this? Even if Eric hadn't died, there was no chance for you too. Do you know why I could find his whereabouts so quickly and take action? He made a confession to me. It was all thanks to you, Gina. You played a big role." He got up, walked over to me, and lightly touched the scar on my abdomen. "When I operated on you earlier, I implanted a micro-tracker here." I lifted my head slowly to look at the man in front of me. He seemed triumphant, self-assured, unattainably high and mighty. But in my eyes, he was no better than an animal. "So Gina, Eric died by your hands. How can you go on living with him?" After Eric was thrown into the deep sea by Justin's bodyguards, his body was said to be devoured by fish, disappearing without a trace. After his death, the gang fell into chaos without a leader. Soon, a new person took over, completely replacing him. Perhaps in a short while, the name Eric would be completely forgotten. Justin brought me back, placing me under semi-house arrest. I once thought about breaking free from him, but I was pregnant. When my baby was just 2 months old, neither Eric nor I knew. After Justin found out, he immediately pressured me to have an abortion. But I stole a pair of scissors from the kitchen and held it against my neck. Perhaps he understood my temperament a little. He knew that without the child I couldn't go on living. In the end, he gave up on this decision. When the child was 4 months old, Justin came back drunk one night, insisting on entering my room. I stabbed his arm with the scissors. "Gina!" He covered his bleeding arm, staring at me without blinking. "Have you truly fallen in love with Eric?" I didn't answer him, just sat on the carpet holding the scissors, clutching my stomach. "Have I not treated you well enough, Gina? I even tolerated Eric's illegitimate child. You don't deserve to mention his name." Justin became furious. "Gina, do you think that without my protection you and the child can survive?" Eric had made countless enemies during his lifetime, many who wished for his demise. "If not for me, you would have been humiliated and tortured to death. Do you think I want to live?" I coldly laughed. "Justin, if that day in the cemetery you had let Eric and me die together, I might not hate you so much." "You truly are insane," he sneered. "What has Eric done to deceive you, Gina? Because I'm sure he wouldn't sell me off as an object. Even if he hit rock bottom in dire straits, a man like him wouldn't just send his woman away and live on like nothing happened." Justin's face darkened. "How do you know he wouldn't? Until it comes to that, how do you know he wouldn't?" "I just know. Eric was a man of his word, my Gina's husband. I know he wouldn't do that to me. He would rather die than harm me." As I spoke, I finally broke down in tears. It seemed as if I had suddenly understood why on that day at the cemetery, he had insisted on me taking off the ring. He was paving a way for me to have a better future. I wanted to have fewer regrets and concerns about my relationship with him in the past so that my future path could be a little smoother, a little less burdened. Up until his death, he was worried that I might be mistreated. But I truly didn't know why Eric was so good to me. When my baby was 8 months old, the man who took over Eric's gang suddenly found me. He handed me an old-fashioned gold lock, the kind children wore. It was something Eric always carried with him. He didn't have a chance to retrieve it later, so it stayed with me. I was even more confused, but he handed me the lock saying, "Big sister-in-law, this is yours, the one you gave to Eric when you were young." I was even more bewildered. Eric had been abducted as a child, rescued, and briefly stayed in a welfare home for half a month. "You were also in that welfare home. At that time he was traumatized, having nightmares every day, and it was you who stayed by his side. When his family finally took him back, he gave you the jade pendant he wore around his neck, and you gave him your little gold lock." But I had no memory of this at all. As I held the gold lock, my memories were a blank slate. I had no recollection of the jade pendant Eric gave me either. Eric said he had found out that later on. "You were adopted by someone who treated you poorly, often physically abusing you. Once, when you had a high fever and almost died, the director of the welfare home took you back in. Perhaps the jade pendant was lost in that home, and due to that fever you forgot many things. Later on, trouble arose in Eric's family, and he was forced to flee to Southeast Asia, eventually avenging his parents and taking over that position, which took over 10 years, delaying the time to come back and find you. Big sister-in-law, now the item has returned to its rightful owner." I held the gold lock in my hands, tears streaming down like rain. The item had come back to its rightful owner. But Eric, he would never return to me and the child. Maybe due to the emotional turmoil shortly after receiving the gold lock, I gave birth prematurely to a fragile daughter. I was afraid Justin would take my child away. Despite being weak in the postpartum period, I insisted on personally caring for the child night and day. When my daughter was 3 months old, Justin brought me to Las Vegas for a visit. But that night, we parted ways again after an argument. After the quarrel, Justin went off with his people to unwind elsewhere. I was left in Las Vegas with my daughter. That night, Las Vegas suddenly erupted in fireworks, an hour-long display of revelry. I lulled my daughter to sleep standing on the deck of the cruise ship, watching the fireworks light up the sky. Despite the festive atmosphere, my thoughts drifted back to the first time I met Eric on a night just like this, where fireworks had lit up the sky and then fell to the ground like ashes. Justin draped a coat over me and pushed me towards him. At that moment, I was in such anguish and despair that I was on the brink of. Little did I know that within a few months I would fall in love with him. And within a few more months we would be separated by life and death. The night wind chilled my face. I raised my hand only to feel a dampness on my face. Eric? I couldn't help but mutter softly, the name that has turned over in my mind countless times. A pair of slightly cool hands came from behind me and gently covered my eyes. I was startled and instinctively screamed and pushed away. But a familiar voice, deeply ingrained in my heart, said, "Gina, your man is back." I don't know if you have ever experienced that feeling. It's like all the blood in your body has solidified. Even the heart stops beating. Even the wind seems to have paused. If time could be stopped, I really wish for eternity in that moment without worry or disappointment, always looking forward to reuniting with him. But the hand that was originally covering my eyes let go. My sight was filled with colorful lights. Those hands fell on my waist, then slowly moved to my abdomen, gently resting on top. "Does it hurt?" I nodded hard, tears falling endlessly. "It hurts. I'm sorry. You said not to leave a scar. It's my fault. But I've only just become your daughter-in-law, and now I'm a widow." I finally cried loudly, pounding the arms that were embracing me. "Eric, I hate you. I hate you to death." My tear-streaked face was gently held in his hands. The familiar touch fell on the corners of my eyes. He wiped away my tears, but my tears couldn't stop flowing. Eventually, he had no choice but to lower his head and kiss me. "Eric." Trembling, I touched the scar on his forehead, the one on his jaw. Twisted, protruding, ugly, but a scar that made my heart ache. "Eric, does it hurt? Do you hurt?" I don't know how he survived. Seriously injured, unconscious, thrown into the deep sea. What kind of strong willpower and luck does it take to come back standing in front of me? "Gina." Eric hugged me tightly, almost making it hard for me to breathe. But I couldn't bear to let him go. It's as if when he lets go, this dream will end. The wound doesn't hurt anymore, but when you cry, I hurt. Eric lowered his head and kissed me again. "I'm taking you home." Dizzy, I was led forward by him, and after a few steps, I suddenly remembered something. "Our daughter, Eric, and our daughter. Someone has gone to pick her up. What about Justin?" Eric smiled faintly but coldly and said, "Tonight he better pray for some luck at the gambling table." In fact, Justin used to gamble from time to time. Then, after being severely reprimanded by his father and getting into trouble, he even sent me away until Eric spared his life that one time. He didn't touch that stuff for some time, but starting last year, he gradually escalated and started becoming addicted. Every time he left my place, slamming the door, he would end up gambling like crazy. But suddenly, I thought maybe someone is pushing him behind the scenes. But Eric was not willing to tell me about these messy, dirty affairs. I didn't want my mind preoccupied with these disgusting things. I just wanted to focus on him and our daughter. As the end of the year approached, news came from New York. Justin had embezzled billions of dollars from the company, completely angering the people in power. He was almost exiled from the family, almost out of options. But he stubbornly insisted on his own downfall, and even went to the casino with the little money he had left. However, this time Justin did not leave the casino. Shortly after, there was a man on the street with disabled legs. Later, perhaps feeling ashamed, his family brought him back. Since then, there has been no news related to him. Eric didn't go back to the gang. His life and death brother would continue to sit in that position for him. He took me to many places. We even went back to the old welfare home. He remembered every detail here, even the swallow's nest under the eaves. But I had completely forgotten. The past was like a dream. "When I found you, you were with that idiot." There was a hint of jealousy in Eric's tone. I couldn't help but laugh. "He saved me once, but you also loved him." When you're young, it's easy to confuse gratitude and love. Anyway, I don't like him. "Eric," I turned around and embraced him. "I love you." He was taken aback for a moment, seeming a bit uneasy, then cleared his throat. But then he hugged me tighter. "I love you even more." Eric raised an eyebrow, bent down and kissed me. "Gina, Eric loves you very much." I couldn't help but smile on my tiptoes, responding to his kiss. But in the end, I gently kissed his scar. There was a moment of resistance from Eric, wanting to push me away, but I held his hand. The sun was shining brightly. It was the best moment of the day. Our daughter ran over unsteadily, then suddenly stopped. She covered her eyes with her chubby little hand, then opened her fingers to peek and laugh so adorably. I laughed too, leaning against Eric's chest, gradually laughing as loudly as our daughter. This heart finally landed, took root and sprouted, and no longer wandered like before. In this life I have no regrets.